Good evening, guys. Again, this is your psychologist Ashok Kumar Tamburaj from the Armed Forces Preparatory Academy. So now welcome to this video where we will be continuing our discussion about the TAT, that is the Thematic Apperception Test. Now just to recap what we discussed in the last video. So just we'll go through few slides just to refresh your mind so that we can understand the further procedure in a better manner. So I did tell you that the major aspect of your psychological test is the TAT, in which the story writing plays an important role. Now in the story writing, one of the major aspect is the introduction part, how to start the story. And here you will be taking a main character among the various characters shown in the picture. And that character, remember, is going to show your OL cues. Once you have taken a main character, what is the role of other characters who are shown along with the main character? And the third aspect is, what is the task that you are going to take? Now, should you give a problem to the main character, or you have to give a task to the main character? That I clearly told you that it depends on the picture. Don't unnecessarily introduce a problem. Rather, you have to bring out a positive task to the character when nothing shown in the picture. The next aspect what we discussed was that the approach part. Remember, how you approach a particular situation differs from individual to individual. Now this individual difference is the basic aim of the psychological testing, when the entire personality assessment is based on the concept of individual differences. If you are giving the response which are different from other people in a better manner, then you are emerging as a leader. And now that leadership qualities are the one which we are expecting from each and every one of you. So this approach is again important in the story writing. So today we'll be continuing with the next aspect, that is the conclusion part of the story. Now you are starting a story, you are carrying it till the end, but how you should end the story? Always remember this, the end of the story has to be optimistic. You remember I told you about various things regarding the main character, his qualities and other aspects. The end of the story always makes the story, it is an optimistic or a pessimistic. For example, you remember the picture we have taken in the previous video, a man standing on top of a bridge and there was a man drowning in the river. Now here, your main character has taken the task to save the person. Now whether his entire success depends on whether he successfully saved the person or not. What if you write a story in which your main character has taken so much of pain, so much of efforts, jumping into the river all the way from the 30-foot, 40-foot bridge, and after jumping from such a height, and then he swam towards the person and he caught him and then he brought him to the shore and he had applied some CPR to the person, and thereafter he had taken him to the hospital. Even after doing so much of effort, in the end, the person who was drowning consumed lot of water. In the end he died. Now can you end the story in such a way? Then what is the point of taking so much of effort? Now here, the main thing you should remember is, what happens in reality is different. What you will be writing in the story has to be different. So am I saying something wrong? You might be thinking. So why I am saying that your writing should be different? Rather I would say, you should ask the question like this. Rather asking, what can happen in real life, am I bringing it in the story? Rather asking this question, you should ask the different question to yourself, that what you want to or what you are writing in the story, can it happen in real life? If something can happen in real life, and if you are bringing out exactly in the story, or you are assuming that whatever you are doing in the story, whatever your main character is doing, it can happen in real life frequently. Such kind of ideas are highly acceptable. So considering this particular aspect, you want to project your main character as an optimistic person, irrespective of whatever the problem he has taken at the beginning of the story. Please make sure that he works hard, he takes a lot of efforts, he puts into his heart and soul, and then he comes out with a positive solution. Even a negative picture can be appreciated by bringing out the positive outcome. So one example I gave you, that you have to save the person, and at end of the story, I have seen it has been a problem with at least 50% of the candidates who are writing the story. They don't bring out the end result. Like your main character jumped into the river, he took so much of effort, but in the end he took him to the hospital. That's it. Thereafter what? At least you should have mentioned in one line that the person got treated and he was saved. If you don't bring this thing particularly or clearly in the story, your story still remain as a incomplete story. And of course the pessimistic story is what? Where you have killed the person at the end of the story. So that means the conclusion has to be optimistic. Then the other two aspects we have been discussing quite long. Like practically and logically you should think. What do you mean by thinking practically and logically? Now when a person is drowning in a river and the background looks like there is a kind of mountains, and the bridge is on the high point of a mountain or between two mountains. Now we all know that logically speaking, jumping from a height into a river could be possible. But then logically speaking, those who have been to hill station, you all agree with what I am talking about. The river consists of more of rocks rather than having great depth of water. So in such kind of places, if your main character is jumping from a particular height, what will happen? When he reaches the water, he is going to find more of rocks at the depth of the water rather than the plain waters. So that means you are putting yourself into an unnecessary risk. So there you are not becoming practical, you are not becoming logical. So you become illogical and you become impractical kind of a person. Now talking about next aspect, don't expect things in return. It has become a trend for many people to write in each and every story that at the end of the story the main character got awarded, the main character got rewarded. Now here I would like to tell you one thing clearly, that what the psychologist gets out of it when a person is too much of trying to get that awards and rewards. Anything tangible means that you are a person who is aiming for the return, not that you want to save the person or you want to help someone. So here what you should do? Don't expect any tangible rewards. When we talk about tangible rewards, it could be getting money out of it, or you are given a certain awards, like typically being defense aspirants. We all tend to write stories where the main character was an army officer. He fought with terrorists. At the end of the story, he was awarded chakras, like Ashok Chakra, Veer Chakra, Paramveer Chakra, whatever the thing we are talking about. Some people go on to write a story where the main character did something for the humanity, so he was conferred with the Nobel Prize. Now such kind of things, one thing is, yes, not everyone gets such kind of an awards. Second thing, why your main character or why you have to focus too much on the outcome of the story or what you are going to get out of it. So that shows your ulterior motivation. Your ulterior motivation is what? you want to gain something out of the task. So the psychologist might assume that if this guy, if there is nothing involved for him at the outcome, at the end of the task, he may not be completely involving in it. So it will give a bad impression. That is one thing. Second thing is, some people go for other tangible things like, he was promoted. Now we all know that whether you are getting promotion in one job or you have been promoted from one class to another class, these are all byproducts. So don't focus too much on the byproducts, rather focus more on the task and the outcome. One aspect we all can write which could be acceptable is that appreciation. Now why I am saying that appreciation is acceptable? Because as a human, we all require appreciation at one point or the other in our life. Even if I worked hard for something, I had put my life into it, I had spent so much of time, sleepless nights. At the end of the task, when I am completing it, at least I want someone to appreciate my efforts. Now this need for appreciation is something quite common for the human being. So this much you can keep in the story. At the end of the story, your main character was appreciated. The better would be, keep your self-satisfaction at the end. At the end of the story, you might say that, yes, helping someone from drowning and saving him had given a self-satisfaction to the main character. Now that self-satisfaction can be equal to many awards you can get. Now the last aspect I would like to talk about conclusion is that whatever the task you have taken, please stick to the task given. Do not extend your task too much into future. Say for example, the same story what we have discussed. So your main character, his task was to save the person from drowning. Now you have saved the person from drowning, you have taken him to the hospital, he was absolutely fine, you informed his family members, absolutely fine. If you get an opportunity further, what opportunity? So here the opportunity depends on two things. One is the time and space permitting. If the time permits, you can add one more line by saying that he brought it to the notice of the authority. That much would be sufficient. But I have seen sometimes people going beyond what is given. Like, your main aspect of saving the person would be one line, and thereafter you focus on teaching swimming to the person. This is where the psychologist believes that the candidate goes beyond what is shown in the picture. The moment you go beyond what is shown in the picture, you are tending to be wishful in nature. That means you are going to be more like a daydreaming kind of a person. I would suggest you guys that focus more on the present action. Don't worry too much about what is going to happen after 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years period. If you have done adequately in the present, the outcome of the story should be whether you achieve that particular task or not. The more you add the details in the future, that will lead to the confusion. So the psychologist might take it that you are a person who is going beyond certain level to bring out your ideas. So this is the last aspect of story writing. So far we have seen the main character, the task or problem which you are going to take in the story, and then how you should approach it, and finally we concluding. So if your story follows these four aspects in the story, and in the format of past, present and future, like what has led to the event, what is going on, and what the outcome will be, then your story would be, the structure of the story would be highly appreciated. Now coming to the next aspect. So when we talk about writing stories, just to recap whatever we have discussed so far, I want to make it little bit more specific. Follow the instructions carefully, even if you knew them. Sometimes it happens that some candidates, they go to the SSB after taking lot of training, I have interacted with people who have taken multiple trainings. So after taking too much of training, after practicing so much, sometimes people tend to be overconfident. So they go to the SSB, thinking that everything would be go as we practiced or as we trained. But showing overconfidence will be a big mistake one can commit in the SSB. Remember, try to remain a modest person. You have to, you have come for a selection. At the point of the selection, you have to be more of a modest person, down to earth person. Don't show that you are overconfident, kind of a arrogancy which might lead to your downfall. The second aspect is observe the following details. Like I told you, again I am repeating it. What are the details you should carefully observe from the picture is first the number of characters, their gender, age, mood, and then the background. Now why I am emphasizing on this again and again is that in the PP&DT you will have a separate separate space to write all these details. But when we are writing these stories in TAT, all 12 stories, there is no separate time given, there is no separate space given. It doesn't mean that you don't have to think about them. So there we are giving a separate time in PP&DT so that being a fresher or someone on the first day undergoing the testing should not feel the pressure. But the next day, the moment you are screened in the psychological test, there will be more pressure put on you. So you have to prepare your mind accordingly. Like any picture is shown, first you will focus on number of characters, the gender, age, mood, and then of course background of the situation. Like I told you how important the background of a story. Now the background shown in a picture, if it is used in a proper manner, can take you to a higher levels. The third aspect is, like something which I just mentioned before, create a story with the past, present and future. Again and again people keep asking me a question, sir, shall I focus only on the picture or can I go beyond the picture? The moment we talk about imagination can be anything, but then the moment I had given you a stimulus, your response has to be based on the stimulus. That means you can imagine anything and everything you want, but please make sure that it is connecting well with the picture. And the next aspect, the past should focus on how the characters had come to the present condition. You don't have to explain in detail about the background of the character. What type of family he is coming from, whether he is coming from a village background, he is coming from a city background, it doesn't matter. Just a brief introduction about the hero, his name, his age preferably can be given in a bracket, and then maybe you can introduce him by saying what is he presently doing. Is he a student or is a working professional? So don't track the past from the beginning of the life of the character. I have seen people writing the story where they start the story like this. Ram was a 6-year-old young boy, young kid. So right from beginning he is interested in joining the defense. So at the age of 10 itself he started his preparation, but now in the story he is bringing him to the present. So starting from 10 years old, now you brought him to the 20 years. So 10 years is such a long period to introduce as a past in the story. The next aspect, while focusing the present, explain the role of main character and other characters. What is the role of your main character and what is the role of the other character? Some candidates, so their story is mainly on the main character, absolutely fine, no problem, but they omit the other characters. Please don't omit any character present in the picture. He talks about two things. One is, when you keep omitting the other characters in the picture, it shows that you are a person who is not comfortable with other characters. That means, somewhere in your social adaptability is a problem. Maybe you think that, no, I want to do everything alone, so that I can project my OLQs in a better manner. No. In defense, it is all about doing the work as a team. Now, you are a leader, you have to lead the team and you have to make use of the resource given to you. Remember, human resource. If you cannot use the human resource properly, you can never become a military leader. So keep this thing in mind. And then make sure the story starts with the main character and ends with the main character. This again problem for some people. So what they do, they start the story with the negative character. So it is unlike a movie. Like in movie what happens? We introduce the heroine first. And thereafter, so behind the heroine comes the villain. And when there is some problem between the villain and the heroine, so there enters the hero. Now that is fantasy. That is a fantasy way of narrating the event. So here you cannot be fantasy oriented. Here you should be realistic oriented. So the psychologist will consider the first character whom you mention as the hero or the main character mentioned in the story will be considered as a hero. So that means you have to be careful before start writing the story. First fix your mind clearly which character can be made as a main character or a hero, and then you start writing the story. The next aspect, like I told you, project the hero showing positive attitude towards other characters. When we talk about attitude, how he deals with the other characters, how he thinks about other people present in the picture. The hero should not get emotionally attached to other characters, like emotional attachment. What happens when a person is emotionally attached? We all know that, your brain will stop functioning if you are more emotional. And remember, emotionally getting attached is the last thing we can expect in a military leader. Especially, we are thinking of a situation where you have to lead a team into an ultimate situation. What is an ultimate situation? It is a situation of a life and death. Remember, there is nothing, I would say, worse than dying. What is beyond that? Tell me. So when you are leading your men in such kind of a situation, yes, you are responsible, that is one thing, but then you don't have to get emotionally attached towards the people. Rather, you should focus mainly on the task given. Always think pragmatically. What do you mean by thinking pragmatically? Thinking pragmatically means you have to be realistic. Can this thing happen in real life? Like I told you before, don't ask the question, what is going to happen in real? I am going to write that. Rather, you should ask the different question, what I am going to write, can it happen in real life? If you ask this question, you will understand this particular aspect. Never say the hero took a shortcut. When we talk about shortcut, there is only one way to do a task. I mean, there are multiple ways to do a task, but then you make sure that whatever the way you do the task, it has to be controlled, it has to be under the rules and regulations. Anyone who goes against the rules and regulations as a leader, it will not project the best sense of responsibility. The future of the story, like I told you, it has to be positive, and do not stretch the story far ahead. Rather, keep it to the immediate outcome of the situation. What is immediate outcome? If your main character's task is to save the person, so he has to save him and complete the task. So do not go beyond what can be done. And don't expect any materialistic reward. So rather, what you should do, like I told you before, project your self-satisfaction at the end of the story. That makes you a person who's like someone who's altruistic, someone who's ready to help the other people, someone who gets into the situation quickly and he put himself in any kind of a trouble to help someone. That is what expected from a defense people. Even today, why defense is one of the respected position in the society is because Everyone knows that when there is a demand, when there is a need, you are the people who are going to be first in the fighting. Whether it is in the border, fighting with the enemies, or be it in the other situations where you are fighting against natural calamities. Everywhere, again and again, defense has proven that they are the front liners. So that is, you are doing it out of your self-satisfaction. So I hope you understood some of the basic points about your TAT, that is the story writing. Now there are few more points which I would like to touch upon. Now, you have selected the good character as a main character. You had selected a good theme, and you know what type of approach should be taken, and you know how to conclude the story positively. Everything is absolutely fine. Now what affects, I would say, around 50% of the students is the way they express their idea. So how much importance is given to the written expression? One hand, the GTO and the interviewing officer, their main focus is on your verbal expression, whereas the psychologist, the main focus is on the written expression. Now what you have to do to project yourself that you are having good expression? How much the importance, like grammar, handwriting, spellings. Let me tell you one thing clearly, that handwriting is our least priority. What we want from your handwriting is, it should be readable. I should not struggle to get the words what you have written. If that much you can write, your handwriting is absolutely fine. Of course, we rarely come to see candidates whose handwriting is absolutely non-decipherable. It is like something like we will be requiring a coding machine to decipher what he or she has written. So such kind of extreme written expression, that is a handwriting, very rare to see. Otherwise, majorly all the handwritings are acceptable in the SSB. Now when we talk about grammar, of course the grammar is one of the essential aspect of your expression. Committing a grammar mistakes might change the meaning what you want to convey to the psychologist. Remember that. We all know that even usage of words. Using one wrong word can entirely affect the sentence, what you want to convey. The idea will be conveyed in a different manner. So please make sure that you don't commit any grammar mistake. Especially those who are going as a graduates. After doing graduation, you have done your college life, and now still you are struggling hard to put things in a grammatically correct manner. That is not acceptable in the psychological test. And of course, the third aspect is the spellings. When we talk about spellings, never ever commit spelling mistakes in the writing part. What does it show if someone is frequently committing spelling mistakes? It shows that the person has a absent-minded person. He is an absent-minded person. He forgets the words, he forgets the spellings. And we all know that change of one word, especially it happens in mainly in the WAT. Though it happens more in WAT, but even in TAT also, certain words we want to use, but then because of the wrong spelling, the meaning of the word got changed. So such kind of things will affect your overall performance in the story writing. So keep this thing clearly in your mind that in the TAT, you should project the self-satisfaction. You have to project yourself as a positive person to the psychologist. As much positive as possible. And the last point I would like to tell you regarding the story writing is that don't write ideas related to defense. Again, this is something which is quite dicey. Every psychologist knows that you had come to the SSB after putting so much of efforts, after taking so much of pain, you had come to the SSB. That itself shows that you are highly motivated to join the defense. So here in the TAT, you don't have to prove it by writing stories only related to defense. You can write the defense related story only when the picture is that of connected with the defense. Otherwise, you are free to imagine anything you want. But the more you write about defense related story, even for a simple picture, a picture which doesn't have any connection with the defense, so that shows your imagination is absolutely lacking. When your imagination is lacking, all your ideas would be low level, routine level ideas, repetitive kind of ideas will be coming. In such kind of situation, the psychologist finds it quite irritating. Like, from beginning till end, you are talking only about defense. Even the psychologists get fed up. And what happens when the psychologist fed up? Like, the more chances of him failing you rather than clearing you. You should give the opportunity to the assessors to pass you rather than fail you. The more you talk about defense unnecessarily, the more you are in trouble. Remember that. So I hope you understood something about the story writing aspect from this video till now. So now what we are going to continue now. So I am going to explain some of the things regarding the OLQs, how they are like assessed by the psychologist in the stories. So I am going to give you a few examples which we will discuss in detail. So I will tell you what is right in the stories, what are the wrongs in the stories, how it should have been done better. So all these kind of things I will be giving you in the video. So please watch continuously. Again, I am sure in the last video I had told you that you will get an opportunity to talk to me one-to-one. So I had seen many people who are quite interested in that, and you had gone through the link which was given in that video. Again, in this video, the same link is given to you. So those who are interested, those who want to know more about your individual assessment, what type of performance you are making, what type of mistakes you are committing in the psychological test. So you can go through this link to know more about the details. So guys, the first aspect which I would like to tell you is the starting of the story. Now how you should start the story? When you are starting the story, how you should brief about the characters and other details. So there are 3 examples I had put up in this slide. If you look at the first one, once in a village, there lived a husband and wife. They are very poor and have no money to build a house. Now if you start a story like this, what does it show to the psychologist? The very first thing is, you are introducing the characters as someone who is a third person. So the very first negative is, you are showing your lack of involvement. Always remember, the more you connect with the character, the more you will take positive approach, will be shown clearly if you start the story by using a name of the character. No names, just introducing a character as a third person, like you are narrating the story as a third person, it will be considered as a negative sign. And the second thing is, why you have to start the story straight away by bringing out that the main character is from poor family and has no money to build a house. Again, it is considered that you are a person who tends to see the negative side of a coin. So that you are more of a pessimistic kind of a person. So rather being pessimistic kind of a person, rather showing something negative, you have to bring out something more positive in the story. So for that, what you should do? The second example. Ram and Sita lived in a village belongs to poor family. Okay, here you have identified yourself with the main character Ram, and along with his wife Sita, they are living in a village. But again, the condition is poor family. So why the situation of poor family comes again and again in the story? The more you talk about your condition being from a poor family, it shows that you are a person who has got lack of self-esteem. You are not valuing yourself. So this you should keep in mind. If you look at the third example, Ram 26 and Sita 22, a couple living in a village involved in farming. Now this particular introduction, it is one line, but then it exactly describes the details of the characters, including their background and where they come from. Now when you are using such kind of a precise language in the story writing, you will get more time, you will get more energy to write the details which you want to put up in the present. So this is how you should start a story, as precisely as possible, and come to the present shown in the picture. I hope you are clear with this particular aspect. Next, there are few examples which I would like to discuss with you guys. The first example, like of course I will tell you the image, you might even get it in the screen also. There is a person who is sitting, and the background, it's a hut or a small house which is not in a good condition. There were many places where that entire wall has lost its charm. And there was a small place in the wall where a lamp can be kept. There was a hole, and then above that there was a small portrait, and then there was a window which has got a now the person sitting on a chair, and in front of him on the table there was a book which was lying open, and there was a lantern kept near the book. So it is on the table. So by looking at the image, the first thing comes to everyone's mind is this boy from a poor background, someone who is reading something. Now if I have to take examples and explain this particular image, particular story more clearly. So I will read the first example. In this story, a boy who is blind is reading the blind script with the help of his hands, feeling each word to make a perfect sentence. And also a lamp is kept aside to the table of a boy, which depicts us that despite being blind, the boy is able to learn the things in whatsoever medium is. But with that glow of lamp tends to the boy courage and is hardworking despite being a disabled. And while doing so, the boy is feeling happy. There is some kind of facts. Now, yes, you all would be asking the question to me, sir, what is this? Frankly speaking, when I read this for the first time, the story which was written by one of the candidates, I also felt, what is it? So I also got astonished. I got, the problem was this. First of all, the boy was from a language, is from a Hindi medium. Someone who was not that well with English. One thing. Second thing, he was a fresher who knew nothing about SSB, who had come to the training to our academy. So it was the very first day he had to write the story. This is what he wrote. So I am not blaming the candidate here. But then you all must understand one thing. What can go wrong? Like many people ask, sir, what can go wrong if I don't take a training? Remember, this guy, considering this story, you would be surprised to know that this guy got screened in. Of course, he got conferenced out, but at least he got screened in. Now, can you think a person without a training, a proper training, proper guidance, going to SSB writing a story like this, does he have a chance to get screened in? So, this is one question you all should ask. That aspect I would say training comes handy to people who are in trouble as well as to anyone who want to perform well in the test, any test for that matter, psychology, GTO, interview, training comes handy. The second aspect about this story is regarding the image, like I told you. If you have seen this image, you must have asked one thing clearly, like the same question I asked, the same question everyone else asked. If there is a blind person reading something, what is the need of a lamp kept there? Obviously, a blind person, for him, know whether there is a lamp kept or there is a sunlight, a daylight. How does it matter? He can feel, but can he see? So, I don't think this would be more realistic than writing such kind of a story. The other aspect of this image is, look at the main character. You take a main character as a blind person. Now, the moment you assume your main character as someone who is physically unfit, physically, alternatively abled, someone having a physical problem, there itself you are proving that you are a pessimistic kind of a person. So, considering this logic, if you wanted to write the same story, like someone who is reading a blind script, but at the same time he is not a blind person. Like we all know that it is not necessary that only the blind person should read the blind script. Even someone who want to interact with the blind person, someone who want to teach the blind people, obviously he should go through what they are undergoing. So what if we have taken a main character here, someone who is interested in teaching blind people, so he want to learn the Braille method. That is the teaching method for the blind people. So he has to practice. So how he is practicing? Obviously, first he reads using his eyes, and then he closes his eyes and touches the letters, and then he gets a feeling of it. So can you write a story like this, where your main character is someone who is interested in helping the society, especially the people who are young children who couldn't see, and then how he went on to learn the task, learn the particular method, then how he went on to become a good teacher to teach the blind children. Such kind of stories would be much better. It will project your more positive OLQs to the psychologist. Then the other aspect with respect to this particular story, what was written is that, like we all know that English, it is not about just words. Now here, none of the words the candidate has committed a spelling mistake. Remember that. But then, how he is connecting the words, how he is making the sentences, when we talk about sentence formation, it is absolutely pathetic situation. So when such kind of a stories comes out in TAT, you think about the status of the psychologist who has to read 12 stories like this. I keep telling my students, like, after reading such kind of stories, even I started developing a problem in my English. So it has got a negative impact on the psychologist as well. So this is story number 1. Now for the same picture, we have another story. Now this story again written by a candidate. So I have just typed exactly the way it was written by one of the candidates. So even if there is a spelling mistake, grammatical error in this, please don't ask me. Shankar was a student of class 11, living in a village and carrying on his school there. As it was hardly a few weeks left for his final paper, he was busy in preparing his examination. He had already made a plan, strategy and routine for his studying different subjects at different times. In his village, there was lack of electricity during night, so he used lamp to different time. In his village, so there was electricity, so he used lamp to complete his syllabus. He read all the notes, wrote down every answers 2 to 3 times. He also watched previous questions and answers and solved them within stipulated time. So he kept on revising. In the exam he prayed to God, sought the blessings of elders and gave exam. Now, okay, I know that those who are reading the story, this particular story, would have got many doubts. So let me start from the beginning. So he introduced the main character who's Shankar, a 11th standard student, and of course he is living in a village carrying on a school there. Now, considering the background, he assumed him to be a village boy, and of course he brought the problem of lack of electricity. So he didn't say there is no electricity, so lack of electricity during night. That means this guy understood one logic from the picture that, so he is using a lamp to read in the night. Normally in the daytime we don't be requiring too much of light. Even if you open the window, using the sunlight you can read. But the other aspect the candidate failed to address was that, why was he reading at the night? What was he doing at the daytime? Maybe he is going to school, everyone would say that. Still the schools run, schools can run till 4 p.m. And thereafter what were you doing till 7 p.m? For the 3 hours you had a light. What were you doing at that time? So that particular thing was not addressed by the candidate. The other aspect is, so he made a plan, strategy, routine. Now remember, all these three brings out same meaning. You call it a plan, you call it a strategy, or you call it a routine. All three words talks about the same thing. Here what happened? To talk about only one thing, you are using multiple words. That means you are wasting your time unnecessarily. So you could have used any one word, like he made a plan and prepared accordingly. And then of course, he went through the question and answers previous. Yes, absolutely fine, acceptable. Wrote down every answers 2 to 3 times. So he practiced like that. Stipulated time, rather using, stipulated time. Yes, what exactly the time was given. So he practiced accordingly. Absolutely fine. He kept on revising. Till then, it was going smooth. Then what happened was that at the last line, in the exam he prayed to God. Now, the moment you say that you are praying to God, yes, it won't make you a religious person. But remember this, even God helps to those who work hard. So he could have still believed his hard work. Sought the blessings of elders and gave exam. When we say sought the blessings of elders and gave exam, again absolutely fine, someone who is respecting the elders. But then where is the end of the story? Gave the exam, fine. But what is the outcome of it? You had put so much of effort and you had given the exam. What happened to the exam? Whether he passed the exam or not. So that end part of the story is missing in this particular story. So I would say this is not a bad story, but then there are certain things are lacking. One is it requires fine tuning, and second thing is the outcome of the story should have been there. So this is the second example for the same picture. Now let us talk about the third story. So the third story goes like this. Again, this was written by one of the candidate who has prepared himself a lot. Now I will tell you how this kind of stories again will lead to some trouble. Shankar, a student of class 12, aspires to become a civil servant. Since he is from political science stream, he chose political science for his graduation. Right after joining the college, he enrolled himself in the preparatory course conducted at his college. With the help of his teachers, he met many civil service officers and took their guidance. He focused on general awareness by going through newspapers, journals, and course material regularly. He found out classmates who were interested in joining civil services and spent more time with them. He also joined NSS to have experience in social services. With his hard work and preparation for 3 years, he successfully cleared the preliminary exams and started preparing for the main exams. Now, you might all be wondering, like, the language of the story was absolutely fine, no problem with this. The main character did something extraordinary by clearing the preliminary exams, isn't it? Look, like 3 years of preparation. That means he started from the first year of college, third year. So after completion of his graduation, immediately he cleared the preliminary exam. So that would be a great achievement, isn't it? It doesn't matter. But now the question is, the same question what you are asking, I also have in my mind. Where is the picture? This type of stories, well structured stories, which don't talk well about which don't address what is shown in the picture, they are considered to be a preconceived ideas. So that means you have taken idea from somewhere and you are trying to insert it into the picture, or you are trying to match the story with the picture. Now remember, one question many candidates ask me, sir, can we go with some prepared stories? Won't they create a bad impression? I would say, not all prepared stories creates a bad impression. The stories which are prepared well, written well, and it is matching well with the picture, highly acceptable. But a story which are well prepared, written well, but then it has got no relevance with the picture, such kind of stories are not accepted. So this is one such kind of a story. Absolutely well written, well constructed, but then it is not talking about the picture. So even such kind of a stories, so the candidate might feel like he has done pretty well in the stories. But when the result comes in the conference day, he might get rejected, he might get conferenced out, and he will never come to know what is going to, or why he got rejected in the SSB, why he got conferenced out. So this is why I told you that particular one-to-one program which I was talking in the middle of this particular video. If you go through the link, you will come to know more about it. It will help you to find out this particular aspect, whether you are progressing in the right direction or you are going in the wrong direction. So what kind of a story can be acceptable for such kind of pictures? One thing you have seen, a boy studying using a lamp, could be possible like he's someone who is interested in preparing for some competitive exam. Absolutely fine. But then you have to keep it a short-term goal. Take it 6 months. You may take him as who just passed out from his graduation. He is preparing for 6 months. Irrespective of his difficulty, irrespective of various problems at home, he prepared well and studied. He studied well and succeeded in the task. What can be included in the story to make it more better? Like why he is studying at night? You might say that he goes to college in the morning. Once he come back in the evening, he is doing some sort of a work, like a part-time work. Or he goes to the field to work his farmer parents. Then he comes back late in the night and then he starts studying. So that again could be possible story. So like this you logically connect each and every detail shown in the picture. And if you remember, I told about there was a portrait kept on the back of the main character. So that was on the wall. That portrait looks like a Vivekanand, Swami Vivekanand. So if you add that detail, someone adds that he's taken inspiration from Swami Vivekanand. So he followed his principles and he worked hard. So the more you connect the details from the picture, your story would be highly acceptable. So this is the first 3 stories what we wanted to discuss. The next story, of course there were 2 other stories which I am going to tell you. The next story, just one example. The picture again you must all have seen in the YouTube and other places. There was an accident scene, a car and a scooter, the man lying on the road. The scooter man, obviously, and the scooter is on top of the man. So here the story, one of the candidates written was that Raja, a medical student, was going to his college. On the way, he witnessed an accident between a car and a scooter. The man riding the scooter got injured and was bleeding. He rushed to the spot and started removing the helmet of the injured person. By seeing him, other people also joined him and with their help he moved him to a nearby hospital in the car which had hit him. In the car, he gave first aid and informed his family members, taking help from his identity card. At the hospital, he made sure the victim got immediate treatment and then informed the police. Once the relatives reached the hospital, he left for his college. He felt satisfied with what he had done. Now again, this is one example story for that image. Again, it was taken from one of the candidates. There are so much details involved in this story. But then there are two major things missing. One is, if a person got major accident, once you take him to hospital, he would be requiring blood, isn't it, for his surgeries. So if you would have added one more thing, like saying that in the hospital he made sure that he got adequate treatment and he arranged for blood as well, that would have taken the story to next level. And the other important aspect missing in the story was, what happened to the injured person? You have taken so much of effort, but the end of the story you have written what? He felt satisfied with what he had done, but the story is still incomplete. At the hospital, he made sure the victim got immediate treatment and then informed the police. The relatives have reached there, but what happened to the injured person? Did he got survive or not? So adding these two sentences in this story would have made the story entirely into a different level, a very high level kind of a story. Again, those people who ask me a question, so they ask me, sir, such kind of images, normal stories are going to come again and again. Now, how does it matter what the psychologist is going to get out of it? I would say that even the normal story can be made interesting by adding more details. And everyone's language is different. Everyone's way of writing the story is different. So based on your way of writing the story, your personality is going to come out. So you don't have to worry about other people. Even if all 100 people writing the similar kind of story, in what way you are concerned? It is the problem of the psychologist. It is his own headache. I would say that at this point of a time, you let the psychologist handle his headache and you handle your problem. And one more aspect I would like to talk about this particular story was that there is one particular line. He rushed to the spot and started removing the helmet of the injured person. By seeing him, other people also joined him. So such a strong action. Why we call it a strong action? I have seen the other way people writing, like everyone was sitting there, everyone was standing there, no one want to help him. But then your main character went to help the injured person. So there you are trying to blame the other people because they are not ready to help someone, so you went and helped. But the same thing, this guy had written it in a positive manner. What he had written? He didn't talk about the other problem. He got into action. Looking at him, there are more people came. That means what? He actually influenced people with his actions. And this is what we expecting from the stories. Remember that. Even this kind of stories, I would say, still it is incomplete. The end is not there. But then, when such kind of stories are coming again and again, repeatedly, in all 12 stories, you maintain a consistency. I would say still your TAT is considered to be acceptable level. Now coming to the last story. So the image for the last story, again most of you must have seen, there was a notice board in which some notices were there and there were about 6-7 candidates, students standing in front of the notice board. So here what is the story the candidate has written? Ram is a student of DAV college studying in final year BA. He is the captain of the college football team. One day an inter-college state level tournament notice was put up on the notice board. He immediately organized his team members and took them to the coach of the college team. With the support of coach, they took permission from the principal to apply and started practicing. During the practice, he identified the players' strengths and weaknesses and motivated his team and practiced regularly. He also made sure that the players took care of their diet. With the hard work and cooperation of the players, they won the tournament and brought good name to the college. Again, this kind of a story. There was a past, like who is the main character, what is he interested, and then coming to the present in the second, coming to the picture in the second line, there was a notice. And thereafter, whatever the actions the main character has taken, it is in the continuation of the same. That means, it is in the continuation of the present. So immediately they went to the coach, assembled the team, went to the principal. After his permission, they started practicing, and during the practice time, what he had done, and then of course in the end of the thing. So here, the candidate felt it wasn't necessary to describe about how they played during the match. Now, such kind of stories, like how they played the match, would have been written if the image, some of you may have seen like few people playing football. Such kind of image describing more about the event is required, but whereas such kind of images shown here, notice board, that event is not important, but then how you prepared yourself is more important. So I am sure this story again is one of the best story, one of the highly acceptable story. So when you are bringing such kind of stories more in the TAT, you have a high chance of clearing the psychological test. So now you have to decide whether you want to write simple stories, you want to write average level stories, or you want to write well constructed stories bringing out more details from the picture. The more you bring the details from the picture into the stories, the more you write the positive stories, you tend to reach to a high level. It is not that you will be just ending up scoring 90 marks. That 90 is out of 225 marks. So still there are 135 marks are left. How many of you are interested in scoring more than 100 marks, more than 110, 120? The more you want to score the marks, the more your responses should be better. In each and every story, you have to show some progress to the psychologist. I hope this particular video, the last session as well as this session, was quite fruitful to you. So I wish you all the guys, all the best to all of you, whoever is watching the video. So make use of this video as much as you can. And in the next video, we will be talking about the word association test. That is the second test in the psychology. So till then, I say you guys keep practicing. What are the doubts you have, keep noting it down. And I am sure if you are more keen to interact with me one-to-one, then you are most welcome to ask such kind of all your queries, whatever you have seen from this particular two videos. So till the time, so it's best of luck from my side. So Jai Hind guys. Thank you.